If you have a planner or maybe a bullet journal, chances are pretty high you have or have had some form of a habit tracker. And many of you will make some form of a to-do list on a pretty regular basis. But habit trackers and to-do lists can be a bit of a double-edged sword. Lots of check marks may fill you with a sense of pride or accomplishment, whereas an almost empty habit tracker usually evokes a more negative sentiment. At some point you may give up entirely. What's the point in having this habit tracker if I never actually do the thing? You may say to yourself, I'm not consistent enough. I'm not disciplined. I'm lazy. I'm a quitter. And the key to changing all that may lie exactly there, in those statements about who you are. In his book Atomic Habits, James Clear states that your habits shape your identity and your identity shapes your habits. If you want to change your habits, whether you want to start doing something on a regular basis or want to quit doing something, you can either focus on the outcome or on your identity. But according to Clear, changing our habits is much easier if we change our identity first. Now that may sound quite vague, but I think Clear gives a pretty good example of how this works. Let's say there are two people who want to quit smoking. They're offered a cigarette. One of them says, "No thank you, I'm trying to quit." The other one says, "No thank you, I'm not a smoker." The first person is focusing their efforts on changing the outcome. They still clearly see themselves as a smoker, albeit a smoker that is trying to quit. The other person starts by changing their identity. By saying they are not a smoker, they are changing the way they see themselves. But why does this matter? Why does starting with changing your identity help you in implementing new habits or quitting old ones? The key word here is evidence. Everything we believe, whether it's about the world around us or about ourselves, is based on experiences. When I was in high school, I had amassed a pretty impressive collection of terrible math grades. I just suck at maths, is what I told myself, and to be honest, it's what I tell myself to this day, but that deeply ingrained belief that I'm just not cut out to be good at maths crippled any effort to get better at it. Sure, I may not be a mathematical genius, but I wonder how big of a difference it would have made if I had told myself I am someone who needs to spend a little more time on maths to understand it. Pair that with a statement like, I am persistent or I am disciplined, and I really believe my grades would have been a bit higher. Why? Because it would have felt less pointless to keep trying. If we go back to the example of the two smokers, the person who said, "No thank you, I'm trying to quit," still sees themselves as a smoker. And if they slip up even just once, they have evidence. See, I'm still a smoker. What's the point in trying? It's too hard. Let's say they refused the cigarette 9 times and accepted the cigarette 1 time. They now have one evidence point for their perceived identity as a smoker. The other person, the one who said, "No thank you, I'm not a smoker," has also refused 9 times and accepted once. However, this person now has 9 evidence points for their perceived identity as a non-smoker. Do you see where this is going? You're way more likely to count and see the evidence for the things that you believe in, which is why our beliefs about our own identities are both extremely powerful and sometimes extremely dangerous. For me, my planner with its habit trackers and to-do lists is a way of collecting evidence for the beliefs I have. I try to not approach going for runs, for example, as I should really do this, it's good for me, but I'm just not really an active person, and on top of that, I'm also a bit of a quitter. I approach going for a run as I am someone who values a healthy lifestyle. Exercise is not always my number one priority, which is why I don't aim for a 100% success rate, but I go on frequent runs because it makes me feel good. I'm not sure what James Clear would think about my half-baked statement, but it doesn't feel right to motivate myself to go for runs by saying I'm a sportsman, because that's not my goal. I don't want to go for a run every day. I'm not training for a marathon. I go for runs because it is one of many factors contributing to my health and because it makes me feel good physically and mentally. To sum this up, I try to make my beliefs about myself both positive, so no sabotaging myself or making myself feel bad, and realistic, things I can actually collect evidence for. And I try to stay away from statements that sound as though they are out of my control, such as, "I am just bad at maths." And one key belief about myself that has really changed the way I look at my life is I'm a generalist. I am interested in many things. I want to learn many skills, know all sorts of things, read and watch many types of content. In the past, I would often compare myself to specialists, people who are extremely passionate about one or two things and dedicate most of their time to those things. And that leads to comparisons like, that person read 100 books last year and I only read 5. I'm a terrible reader. But that's just not a realistic comparison because I cannot juggle a higher amount of interests and still expect myself to reach the same numbers or the same skill level as someone who dedicates their life to that activity. So my habit tracker is no longer generating evidence for the belief that I'm just not disciplined enough to do all of the things, but it's helping me collect evidence for the belief that I'm a generalist. And some weeks I play the piano more often, while other weeks I focus on studying a language. And that's fine, that's me, and it's exactly who I want to be.